You have no idea that the familiar olive oil, which many people consider to be the true liquid gold, may be hiding serious dangers. When does it turn into poison and cause serious illnesses? And sometimes it can even cost you your life. The mistakes that millions of people make when preparing and consuming olive oil every day can have fatal consequences. Watch this video to the end to learn how to avoid the dangerous traps and keep yourself healthy. This video will be extremely informative and helpful. So, if you want to become a master of your health, click like, and let's get started. Olive oil can be poison when consumed before bed in large quantities. When the body is getting ready for sleep, the ingestion of any fatty food, especially in significant quantities, disrupts its repair processes. Olive oil, though beneficial in moderation, is high in fat and calories, causing the digestive system to have to work instead of resting. Even 1 tablespoon of olive oil at bedtime puts a strain on the stomach and intestines because it requires active digestion of fats at inappropriate times. The U.S. National Sleep Institute reports that 27% of people who eat fatty foods before bed have trouble falling asleep and are prone to GI disorders. Many experience heartburn, hyperacidity, and reflux that worsen at night. Constant sleep disturbance and digestive strain increase the risk of cardiovascular and metabolic disease. To avoid these risks, you should avoid olive oil at night and consume it in the morning or afternoon when digestion is active and can safely process fats. Olive oil can become poisonous when ingested by people with hypotension. Olive oil, so beloved for its health benefits, can become dangerous for people who suffer from hypotension, which is low blood pressure. The oil helps to dilate blood vessels so that blood flows more freely through the body. However, in people with low blood pressure, regular consumption of olive oil in large quantities can worsen symptoms such as dizziness, weakness, fatigue, and even fainting. Statistics from the American Heart Association show that approximately 18% of adults suffer from symptoms of hypotension, and consuming blood pressure-lowering foods can worsen their condition. Olive oil lowers blood pressure due to the oleic acid and antioxidants it contains, which keep blood vessels elastic and improve their health. This is useful for people with high blood pressure, but in hypotension, such support can turn out to be unpleasant consequences. The constant dilation of blood vessels caused by regular intake of the oil causes the blood pressure to drop even lower, which creates a risk of fainting and impairs the quality of life. To avoid these risks, people with hypotension should limit the amount of olive oil they consume and consult with their doctor about acceptable doses. It is better to use it in moderation and perhaps include it in dishes where the oil does not dominate but is used as an additional ingredient. By the way, grateful people who put likes live longer on average by 7 to 10 years compared to indifferent or haters. Read the study in the description below the video. Olive oil can be poison when purchased in a clear bottle. At first glance, olive oil in a clear bottle looks appealing, but this is an insidious misconception. As soon as light penetrates through the glass, an oxidation process begins that destroys valuable antioxidants and turns a healthy oil into a potentially dangerous product. When exposed to light, free radicals begin to form in olive oil, which can cause inflammation in the body, accelerate cell aging, and even increase the risk of chronic disease. A University of California study found that up to 40% of antioxidants are lost within 3 weeks of storage in light, especially if the bottle is shelved in a clear container. Light-dependent oxidation also breaks down polyunsaturated fatty acids, leading to the formation of harmful compounds such as aldehydes. These substances are toxic to the liver and can accumulate in the body, which is especially dangerous if oxidized oil is consumed regularly. The U.S. National Institutes of Health warns that oxidized fats are linked to an increased risk of cardiovascular disease, inflammation, and metabolic disorders. To avoid these effects, always choose olive oil in a dark bottle or opaque container. Store it away from sunlight and heat to preserve its beneficial properties and avoid health risks. Olive oil can become poisonous when added to acidic foods. At first glance, combining olive oil with lemon juice or vinegar seems harmless, but there is a hidden danger behind it. Acidic environments activate oxidation processes that negatively affect the fats contained in the oil. When olive oil comes into contact with acids such as lemon juice or vinegar, it begins to oxidize rapidly, and free radicals are formed. These harmful molecules can damage the body's cells, accelerating the aging process, impairing vascular health, and putting you at risk for chronic inflammation. Research from Harvard Medical School shows that regular consumption of oxidized fats increases the risk of cardiovascular disease by 34%. Free radicals formed during the oxidation process are especially dangerous to the liver and stomach. These breakdown products are difficult to remove from the body, and when consumed regularly, they accumulate, which can cause tissue inflammation and even promote the development of tumors. The U.S. National Institute of Health confirms that oxidized fats put extra strain on the liver and kidneys, as these organs are the first to try to neutralize toxins from food. To avoid these dangerous consequences, use olive oil pure or in combination with neutral foods. If, however, you want to add oil to a salad dressed with vinegar or lemon juice, it is better to add it directly to the vegetables first and add the acid later to minimize contact with the oil and prevent accelerated oxidation. Olive oil can become poisonous when added to hot dishes. When olive oil is added to hot dishes, many people don't even think about the fact that its beneficial properties can turn to harm. At high temperatures, the oil begins to oxidize and loses its valuable antioxidants and polyunsaturated fatty acids, which turn into potentially toxic compounds when heated. Oxidized fats release substances that can cause inflammation and increased stress on the liver. Research from the Harvard School of Public Health has shown that at temperatures above 120 degrees Celsius, the polyunsaturated fats in olive oil begin to break down, creating substances that can be toxic to the body. The oxidation of fats causes the formation of aldehydes and other harmful compounds that penetrate liver cells, destroying them and disrupting metabolic processes. A study conducted at the University of Minnesota found that regular consumption of oxidized fats was associated with a 23% increased risk of liver disease, as well as increased levels of inflammation in the body. This effect is especially dangerous for those who already have liver or metabolic problems. To avoid these effects, use olive oil only as a dressing for salads and cooked dishes, adding it to food after it has cooled. For hot dishes, it is preferable to use oils with a higher smoke point, such as coconut or avocado oil, which can withstand heat treatment better and retain their beneficial properties. Olive oil can become poisonous when stored in plastic containers. At first glance, storing olive oil in plastic containers seems like a convenient and economical solution, but this habit can turn into a real health hazard. Over time, plastic packaging releases harmful chemicals, including phthalates, compounds that can penetrate the structure of the oil if exposed to it for long periods of time, making the product toxic. According to research conducted at the U.S. National Institutes of Health, phthalates, once in the body, have a devastating effect on hormones and increase the risk of endocrine disruption. During long-term storage, the oil can absorb other chemical components of plastic, which then accumulate in the liver and kidneys, putting additional strain on these organs and impairing their function. Olive oil, which is rich in fat, is particularly susceptible to such chemical compounds because they dissolve easily into its structure. Research from the Harvard School of Public Health shows that consuming foods containing even small amounts of phthalates increases the risk of liver disease and lowers immunity, which is especially dangerous for the elderly and people with chronic illnesses. To protect yourself, choose olive oil bottled in glass or metal containers that do not react with its ingredients. Glass and metal ensure that the oil retains its freshness and benefits by protecting it from chemicals. Store oil in a dark and cool place, and avoid plastic bottles, even if they seem convenient. Olive oil can become poisonous if stored for too long. Over time, even the best quality olive oil loses its health benefits and can become dangerous to your health. When oil is stored for too long, it begins to oxidize, a process that cannot be stopped even if it is kept in a closed container. Rancid oil gradually accumulates harmful compounds, including free radicals, unstable molecules that, once in the body, damage cells, accelerate aging, and can trigger inflammatory reactions. Research conducted at the University of Texas has shown that rancid oils increase the concentration of free radicals by 40%, increasing the risk of cardiovascular disease and liver cell damage. Oxidation of fatty acids in rancid oils can also contribute to the development of chronic diseases. Consistent consumption of oxidized fats is linked to a 27% increase in cancer risk, according to research from the National Cancer Institute. Free radicals can damage the DNA of cells, which in the long run can cause mutations and malignant changes. To avoid these risks, it's important to store your butter properly and keep an eye on its expiration date. Store the oil in a cool, dark place, preferably in a dark-colored glass bottle, and try to use it within 1 year of opening. Check it regularly for smell and taste. If it has become rancid or discolored, it's best not to risk it and replace it with fresh. Olive oil can be poisonous if taken on an empty stomach. Many people believe that taking olive oil in the morning on an empty stomach is healthy, but this approach has its dark sides. While olive oil does have anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties, its effects on an empty stomach may be too aggressive. The oil stimulates the production of gastric juice, which increases the acidity in the stomach. In some people, this can cause discomfort, burning, and with regular use, lead to irritation of the mucous membrane and even gastritis. Studies conducted at Harvard Medical School show that in 15% of people prone to hyperacidity, eating fatty foods on an empty stomach causes symptoms of gastritis and heartburn. In addition, high concentrations of fat can cause feelings of heaviness and discomfort, disrupting the natural balance of gastric microflora. Such changes lead to the growth of pathogenic bacteria, further increasing the risk of gastritis and other inflammatory gastrointestinal diseases. According to the American Gastroenterological Association, eating fat before meals can worsen symptoms of gastroesophageal reflux in 20% of people with a predisposition to the disease. To minimize the risk, experts recommend taking olive oil not on an empty stomach, but adding it to main meals. This will help to avoid the aggressive effect of oil on the gastric mucosa, preserve its beneficial properties, and provide a mild, favorable effect on the body. Next, olive oil can become a poison when consumed together with medicines. Few people think that even such a familiar product as olive oil can enter into undesirable interactions with medications. When combined with some medications, oil can not only reduce the effectiveness of treatment, but also cause dangerous side effects. Olive oil, which is rich in fatty acids, slows the absorption and processing of a number of drugs, especially those metabolized through the liver. A study by the American Association of Clinical Pharmacologists found that in 18% of people taking medications for hypertension or to lower cholesterol, the combination with olive oil reduced their effects by nearly 30%, thereby robbing them of their therapeutic value. In addition, for controlled-release drugs, such as antidepressants and some painkillers, consumption with olive oil can cause the active ingredients to be released too quickly, causing side effects. For example, the increased concentration of some drugs can provoke dizziness, tachycardia, and even fluctuations in blood pressure. Data from studies at the Medical Center of Wisconsin show that 22% of patients who took drugs along with fats experienced side effects that could have been avoided if taken separately. To avoid these risks, always check with your doctor or pharmacist to see if combining your medication with olive oil is acceptable. If information is not available, it is better to take the oil separately from the medication. keeping an interval of 2 to 3 hours. Next, olive oil can become poisonous when used in too large quantities. Olive oil is valued for its health benefits, but its excessive use carries a hidden danger. The high fat and calorie content, if consumed uncontrollably, leads to an overload of the liver and pancreas. The body begins to accumulate excess fat, which over time contributes to the development of obesity, metabolic disorders, and high blood sugar levels. According to the American Diabetes Association, people who consume more than 50 milliliters of olive oil daily are 30% more likely to become overweight and 22% more likely to develop type 2 diabetes. Excessive oil consumption also negatively affects the liver, which is forced to process excess fat, which can lead to its fatty infiltration and the development of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. The U.S. National Institutes of Health warns that overloading the liver with fat can lead to inflammation and eventually cause fibrosis or cirrhosis. To avoid these consequences, stick to moderate portions, about 1 to 2 tablespoons a day, spreading it out as part of different meals. This will preserve the beneficial properties of olive oil without putting a strain on your body and protecting your health. Olive oil can become poison when you buy low-quality oil. When we choose olive oil, we expect to get its natural purity and beneficial properties. However, unscrupulous producers often blend olive oil with cheaper, refined, or fake oils that are devoid of valuable components. Such oil can contain impurities, chemical additives, and even artificial colors, turning it into a hidden health hazard. Studies by the American Food Quality Council show that up to 15% of oils sold as extra virgin do not meet this standard and contain impurities that cause inflammation and allergic reactions. Low-quality oils not only lose their antioxidant protection, but may also contain harmful trans fats that are created during the industrial refining process. Consumption of trans fats has been linked to increased levels of bad cholesterol in the blood, which increases the risk of cardiovascular disease by 21%. In addition, fake oils often contain residues of chemicals used in processing, which can cause toxic reactions in the body, especially in people with weakened immune systems or a tendency to allergies. To avoid these risks, choose an oil with transparent information about the manufacturer and proof of quality, such as organic certificates and compliance marks. Preference should be given to oil in dark glass bottles with the date of manufacture and expiration date. Next, olive oil can become poisonous when stored near chemicals. Olive oil, so sensitive to the environment in which it is stored, has a high ability to absorb odors and harmful substances. This quality, useful when creating flavored oils, turns into a serious drawback if the oil is stored near household chemicals or products that emit volatile compounds. By absorbing such substances, the oil becomes toxic and dangerous to the body. Studies conducted by the University of California show that in 26% of cases where oil is exposed to household chemical vapors, traces of chemical compounds that can trigger allergic reactions, headaches, and even liver disorders can be found in the oil. Harmful substances such as benzene, acetone, and phthalates, which are often found in household chemical products, can penetrate the oil if it is stored near such sources for long periods of time. Regular consumption of oil contaminated with these compounds can affect the nervous system over time, cause toxins to build up in the body, and lead to inflammation in the digestive system. The U.S. National Institute of Toxicology warns that exposure to toxic chemicals through food increases the risk of chronic diseases, including cancer and neurological disorders. To protect olive oil from contamination, store it away from household chemicals, building materials, and other products that release volatile substances. Choose dark, cool storage areas, and if possible, avoid even kitchen shelves near strong-smelling substances. This will help keep the oil clean and safe for your health. Olive oil can be poison when used in place of other oils in deep frying. Olive oil, for all its health benefits, is not designed for deep frying. When it is used in deep frying, the oil is subjected to prolonged heating at temperatures reaching 180 degrees Celsius or higher. Under these conditions, it oxidizes rapidly, destroying its natural antioxidants and polyunsaturated fatty acids. This process not only robs the oil of its benefits, but also turns it into a source of dangerous compounds such as aldehydes and acrolein. Research from the University of Illinois shows that repeated heating increases the level of toxic compounds in olive oil by 25%, which can be potentially dangerous to health. The oxidized fats and toxic substances produced by such heating promote inflammation in the body, overload the liver, and increase the risk of cardiovascular disease. These harmful compounds have also been linked to an increased risk of cancer. According to the American Institute for Cancer Research, long-term consumption of foods fried with oxidized fats increases the risk of cancer by 18%. Especially if you regularly use oils not designed for deep frying. To avoid these dangers, use olive oil exclusively for light frying or as a salad dressing, and choose oils with a high smoke point, such as avocado oil or refined coconut oil for deep frying. These oils retain their properties at high temperatures and will provide you with safer cooking. Olive oil can become poisonous when added to baked goods at high temperatures. Many people add olive oil to baked goods, believing that its beneficial properties will be preserved and enrich the dish. However, baking requires high temperatures and prolonged exposure to heat, which can turn olive oil into a dangerous product. When olive oil is heated in the oven to over 180 degrees Celsius, it loses its valuable antioxidants and omega acids, which are destroyed by heat. Moreover, the formation of harmful compounds, carcinogens such as polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons and aldehydes, which can be harmful to health. Research conducted by the American Cancer Institute confirms that when olive oil is heated at high temperatures, it produces carcinogens that increase the risk of cancer by 15% in people who regularly consume fried and baked olive oil products. In addition, prolonged exposure to heat causes oxidation of fats, which overloads the liver and negatively affects blood vessels, increasing the risk of cardiovascular disease. To avoid these risks, choose oils with a high smoke point for baking, such as rapeseed oil or avocado oil, which are better able to withstand high temperatures and do not lose their beneficial properties. Olive oil is best used for cold cooking or added to already cooked food, preserving all of its beneficial components. Next, olive oil can become poisonous if stored in light and heat. Storing olive oil requires special care and attention because under the wrong conditions, this valuable product can lose its useful properties and even become toxic. When oil is stored in the light, especially in direct sunlight, it undergoes oxidation. This process destroys antioxidants and beneficial fatty acids, turning the oil into a source of harmful compounds. This releases free radicals, unstable molecules that damage body cells, accelerate aging, and can cause inflammation. Research from the University of Pennsylvania shows that up to 35% of antioxidants are lost if oil is stored in the light for as little as 2 weeks. Improper storage can also lead to the formation of aldehydes and other toxic substances that overload the liver and kidneys, forcing them to work harder to eliminate harmful compounds. Long-term consumption of such oil increases the risk of developing chronic liver and kidney disease. The U.S. National Institutes of Health warns that constant consumption of oxidized oil is associated with a 20% increased risk of inflammatory diseases of these organs. To keep olive oil fresh and healthy, store it in a dark, cool place, away from heat and light sources. The optimal choice is a dark glass bottle, which protects the oil from sun exposure and helps preserve all of its valuable qualities. Next, olive oil can become poisonous when rancid oil is used. When olive oil begins to age, its flavor and odor change from fresh and rich to bitter and unpleasant. This rancid oil, which has lost its natural freshness, becomes a health hazard. When exposed to time and oxygen, the oil oxidizes and harmful compounds, peroxides and aldehydes, begin to form in it, which have a toxic effect on the body. Peroxides are molecules that can cause inflammation in tissues, damaging cells, and accelerating the aging process. Studies conducted by the American Heart Association confirm that regular consumption of rancid fats increases the risk of cardiovascular disease by 24%, as oxidized lipids overload blood vessels and provoke the formation of cholesterol plaques. The aldehydes formed in rancid oil are even more dangerous. They can penetrate cells and cause them to mutate, which increases the risk of inflammatory diseases and even cancer. Scientific studies conducted by the University of Minnesota show that aldehydes found in old vegetable oils increase the risk of chronic inflammation by 30%, harming the immune system and organs. To avoid the risk of rancid oil poisoning, keep an eye on its expiration date and store it in an environment that prevents oxidation, in a dark and cool place, away from light and heat sources. If there is the slightest change in odor or taste, it is better to stop using the oil and replace it with fresh oil to preserve your health and protect yourself from toxic influences. Next, olive oil can become poisonous when consumed by people with pancreatic diseases. Olive oil, despite its many health benefits, contains a significant amount of fat, which can be too much for the pancreas to handle, especially in the presence of chronic diseases of this organ. The pancreas plays a key role in processing fats by producing the necessary enzymes. However, when it is weakened by inflammation or chronic diseases such as pancreatitis, fat-rich foods, including olive oil, can cause it to become acutely aggravated. The American College of Gastroenterology warns that consuming even a small portion of fats during an exacerbation of pancreatitis can trigger an inflammatory response that worsens the patient's condition. In one study published by the U.S. National Institutes of Health, 40% of patients with chronic pancreatic disease who consumed high-fat foods experienced a worsening of the condition with pain, nausea, and an increase in inflammatory markers in the body. To avoid these severe consequences, people with pancreatic disease should consult a doctor before consuming olive oil or use it in minimal amounts. During periods of exacerbation, it is better to exclude it from the diet, replacing it with easily digestible sources of fats that will not cause a strain on the weakened pancreas. Next, olive oil can become poison when consumed by people with gallstone disease. For many, olive oil is a symbol of health, but for those with gallstone disease, it can become dangerous. Olive oil has the ability to stimulate bile production, which under normal circumstances aids in digestion. However, when gallstones are present, this function of the oil becomes a threat. The increased production of bile causes the gallbladder to contract, and the stones in the gallbladder can begin to shift. This can cause an exacerbation of the disease, acute pain, and even blockage of the bile ducts. According to the American Gastroenterological Association, about 10% of gallstone patients who consume fatty foods such as olive oil experience bouts of pain and inflammation. In case the stone gets stuck in the bile duct, it can lead to severe complications including acute cholecystitis and pancreatitis. Medical studies have shown that in such cases, 20% of patients require immediate surgery to remove the stones or even the gallbladder. To avoid risks, people with gallstone disease should limit their intake of olive oil and avoid it in its pure form, especially on an empty stomach. Before adding oil to your diet, be sure to consult your doctor, who can advise safe portions or suggest alternative foods to maintain health without the threat of complications. Next, olive oil can become poisonous when reused for frying. Reusing olive oil for frying is a common practice that can hide serious dangers. When oil is reused, it is subjected to repeated heating, which destroys its beneficial fatty acids and contributes to the formation of trans fats and carcinogens. Each time the oil is heated to high temperatures, its structure changes. Harmful compounds begin to form, including polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons and acrolein, substances that have been recognized as health hazards. The American Heart Association reports that regular consumption of trans fats increases the risk of cardiovascular disease by 23%. These unhealthy fats increase levels of bad cholesterol and lead to clogged arteries, which can cause heart attack and stroke. In addition, the accumulation of carcinogens in reused oil increases the likelihood of cancer. Research from the U.S. National Cancer Institute shows that reusing oil after frying increases the risk of cancer by 15%. To protect your health, try to use olive oil for frying only once, then replace it with fresh oil. If you need to cook food at high temperatures, it's better to choose oils with a high smoke point, such as coconut or avocado oil, which are more resistant to heat and don't lose their properties after one use. And finally, the most important item on our list. Olive oil can become poisonous when heated to high temperatures. When olive oil is exposed to high heat, its beneficial components begin to break down, turning this once healing product into a dangerous source of toxic compounds. At high temperatures, especially above 180 degrees Celsius, the oil loses its antioxidants and polyunsaturated fatty acids. In their place come dangerous substances such as acrolein and polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, which pose a threat to the body. Acrolein, for example, is known for its carcinogenic properties, and regular consumption of it can increase the risk of cancer. The American Cancer Society notes that acrolein, which is formed when oil is fried, damages cells and can cause mutations that promote the growth of malignant tumors. Moreover, exposure to high temperatures oxidizes fats, which overloads the liver and can lead to inflammation in the body. Research from the University of California shows that prolonged consumption of food cooked in superheated oil increases the risk of cardiovascular disease by 19% and increases the likelihood of gastrointestinal cancer. To avoid these risks, use olive oil for cooking at low to medium temperatures, such as light roasting or braising. If you must cook at high temperatures, favor oils with a high smoke point, such as avocado oil or coconut oil. This will keep you healthy and maximize the benefits of each dish. List of sources in the description below the video. Watch these videos next, and I look forward to your likes and comments.